Hi, and welcome to the Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast presented by Wolf Precision Incorporated, where we learn about and share long range shooting and custom rifle building. I am your host, Jamie Dotson, and welcome to the show. Hi, and welcome to episode 232 of Wolf Precision's Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Dotson, and welcome back to the show. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the tale of two shooters. So we've had some cool experiences over the last week or two. Shooting schools have kicked off. We've had some new clients come through with some build assist, and just want to talk with you about believing in your abilities and, new shooters getting into the sport, not having a lot of self-doubt, and how important that is to the mindset of somebody who wants to become a great marksman. So it ought to be a great podcast. Without further ado, here we go. Before we get started, I want to say a quick thank you to TriggerTech. TriggerTech is the maker of fine rifle triggers. They make a lot of different great makes and models. They make with different trigger shoes. They are one of the safest triggers, one of the easiest to adjust, one of the easiest to install, and in our minds, one of the best triggers on the market today. So if you want to upgrade your rifle and you would like to do it with a rifle trigger, you can stop over to triggertech.com. That's triggertech.com today. We would also like to thank MDT. MDT is the maker of fine rifle chassis. They are made from our great Canadian friends in the north. They have probably one of the largest selections of chassis on the market, from a very awesome entry-level chassis we call the Oryx to the outstanding ACC Elite series that is probably one of the most popular chassis on the PRS circuit today. So if you want to learn more about upgrading your rifle with a high quality chassis, you can stop over to mdttac.com. That's mdttac.com today. Having shot a lot of matches over the years, having spent a lot of time with shooters on the firing line with both experience and inexperience, what's really interesting over the last, I would say, at least 2 decades, is how new shooters develop so quickly into becoming great shooters when they get into the art of long-range shooting. And whether it's coming in with no bad habits or, in my mind, maybe a little more important, is having confidence or not having reasons to lack confidence makes such a big difference. And so in this episode, I want to dive off into the mindset of really believing that you can become a great shooter and how that actually plays out on the firing line over and over and over again. In the last week, I've experienced this twice, and it's a fascinating thing to see. It's a really awesome thing to be a part of. And knowing that, for me, the reward is maybe I brought somebody into the shooting world that's going to leave a good mark, that I've introduced them to a hobby that they're falling in love with, that they're amazed that they can do. They leave with this smile, and it's so rewarding to me. Like, I sometimes at the shooting school, because I've taught this so long, and I know a lot of the subjects are sort of drab and boring when you start getting into the fundamentals, and you really start diving into the details of what truly matters. But usually the first day or two, in some of the classes, you get a lot of quiet students, or you're just not sure if they even care about what you have to say. They're not sure if maybe they believe you, or if they're that interested, they just want to go to the range and blaze targets. You're not sure where that sets. And as someone who's super passionate about shooting and the art of marksmanship and the fundamentals of marksmanship, and really sharing with you how exhilarating and how much fun you can have with a rifle, it's sort of like that feedback loop. I'm putting out all these vibes, and I'm not getting them sort of back. And in some classes, they're all a little different. But then you run into like classes like we just finished up with a young 17-year-old girl in the class who just absolutely shot phenomenal, and to be a part of that and to watch their abilities grow, their beliefs grow, their excitement grow. They're leaving, and now part of the sport, and we were blessed to be part of that, and being blessed with, being part of their introduction and leading them down a path where they're going to go and enjoy it and have fun with it. And more importantly, believe that they can do it, that they can actually go and enjoy themselves and shoot at distances they never thought possible. The same thing happened yesterday. Although we don't do as many build assists as we used to, we did lose Adam. He went off to a new career for teaching in some military installations, which was awesome for him. We really appreciated his time here. So the build assists have slowed down because I can't take every customer to the range. But in this particular place, we had a firefighter from New York getting ready to retire, and he wanted to come in and pick up his rifle in person and go to the range. Now, I should have asked more questions about his experience, and a lot of times I do. I do encourage them to sign up for the online long-range shooting school so they're not coming here not knowing anything. At least if they watch a couple videos, they can sort of get some ideas about what they're going to get when they get here and what we're going to get into, and sort of put the primer on the wall before we start putting the paint on, per se. So he had a really fascinating story as well. And again, being blessed to be part of that. Like, I left the range on probably more of a high than he did. And collectively, I think it would have been illegal how high we were, with just a big smile from ear to ear, really enjoying the time there, and just watching somebody change their lives in a hobby that we're passionate about forever, which is really cool. So let's go back to the long-range shooting school. We finished up our first long-range shooting school last week. We had one here Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. In that class, we had a 17-year-old and a dad who's never shot a bolt-action rifle before. And to most of you that are listening, thinking, wow, a 3-day long-range shooting school and they've never touched a rifle, how did that go? You can sort of picture how this could be absolutely horrid, right? That they're coming here and going to be so overwhelmed, and that they're going to leave thinking, well, this is such a complicated thing. What was I thinking that I could go there for 3 days and learn how to do it and have fun? And I can repeat this story with hundreds of different customers, especially with new shooters, and even more importantly, the female shooters coming through. So first day of class, I usually sit down and talk with everybody a little bit, and I try to get a feel for where their background's at, what they've shot so far, what distances they've shot to, favorite calibers, what they've shot at home, and really try to get a feel for everybody in the class as to what they're here for, because they all could be here for something quite different. Some come for hunting. They're getting ready to go on a hunting trip and they just want to hone some skills. There are different things that they're going to be important to them than someone who just wants to learn how to get into long-range shooting. And then we've also got competitive shooters, which, again, maybe a little more details into the bushes of all the little things that are going to matter when they start trying to compete. So I try to get a feel for everybody in the class and what their wants and needs are for what they're trying to get out of it. Why are they here? And then I also try to get a feel for their experience level. Where are you at? What distance have you shot to with success? What rifles do you shoot now? What calibers do you shoot when you get home? And the two shooters in the class with no experience whatsoever, and a 17-year-old girl has never fired a bolt-action rifle. Now, she has shot handguns before with her dad. So, she has been to the range, and of course, being here with her father and having someone helping and watching over, that's awesome. And on a side note, the coolest thing you can do with your kid, like, for me, especially in the day and age that we live in, let's just talk about society we live in, but not talking shooting or politics. When's the last time you had 3 days of undivided attention with your 17-year-old? When's the last time you had 3 hours? And so to come here as a family, father, daughter, father, son, mother, son, which we've had, and getting to share this experience together 3 days in a row with nothing but you learning a new sport, a new hobby, and experiencing something like this together is just, for me, it's priceless, because we don't get these opportunities. We don't get these opportunities much at all. We're lucky if we can sit down for half an hour and have a conversation before the cell phones ring or ding or an email comes through or some kind of distraction comes in. But here at the shooting school, all that's away. We're learning something together. We're experiencing something together. You're leaving the hotel room in the morning, eating breakfast together, talking about what in the world did we get ourselves into. Then you're getting here with all the anxiety, and you're going to the range for the first time. You're getting handed rifles, and you're like, oh my goodness, and by the end of day 2, you're talking smack with your dad, on the way home because you just whooped his butt, like that was awesome. And there you are at dinner table, telling all these stories about your experiences for that day and getting ready for day 2. And day 2, walk into the classroom, you had breakfast together, you go to the classroom, you learn a lot more than you thought, as far as fundamentals and, how we actually do all of this math in the background to magically beat the wind and make it submit, or at least try to get the bullet to where it's supposed to go. How do we dial our dope? How do we work with weather? What does humidity do? What does temperature do? What does density, altitude, and barometric pressure? All these things that count. And there they are, new shooters, literally 2 hours after we get to the range on day 2, engaging targets. First round hits at 700, 800, 900 yards in. We had 9 to 12 mile an hour winds. They weren't like no winds. We had winds. It was a good wind day to train. Water jugs at 900 yards, water jugs at 1,000 yards. The young girl cleaned up 3 of them. Then on day 3, of course, you're leaving day 2. We go get dinner together. Everybody gets a chance to just relax. And I actually take everybody out for dinner. We get something to eat and get a chance away from the school to actually visit with everybody and get to know everybody a little bit and have some fun, right? And of course, we load everybody up on homemade gob cake, which is a Pennsylvania thing. And then on day 3, we get after it again. We have a shooting test, and here we go, and she got a baseball-sized target at 1,000 yards, 1,010 to be exact. And she did it on her own. She ran that rifle on day 3 completely on her own the entire day, and her score was so far above average that on some classes she could have won the Top Gun had. And her dad barely edged out on her, but she was also the only one that took a couple challenge shots that other people stopped on. So she risks points at Know Your Limits target, and she lost a couple points when she went for the smallest one. And then she took a bonus shot at 1,000 yards where it was plus or minus points, which is something that we do for fun, just to put pressure on, right? Everybody else opted out of the challenge shot because they didn't want to lose points, and she was like, nope, I'm going for it. And she did, and she missed the first shot and got the second shot at, I think, 1,010 or 1,020. And came within, a couple points of beating her dad, even though she lost a couple points. Had she added her points that she lost in, if she would have got the one challenge shot and she would have got the Know Your Limits rack, she would have beaten him for sure. So it was absolutely amazing to watch. It was super fun. And it just leads me down that path of nobody told her she couldn't do it. It's not that she doesn't have any bad habits. I mean, we all can get bad habits about everything that we do. But no one said that it's impossible. No one said that this has to be hard. And for me, the mindset is, I try to tell people that's by the end of day 2, you're going to be doing it on your own as if you've been doing it your whole lives. And it happens that way every time. It's sort of amazing to watch on day 2. And she did. She proved me right. She did such a fantastic job. And the fact that on test day, she went out there and took the entire shooting test all by herself. I do not hover over students trying to get people extra points or tell them what to do. I knew the challenge shot was going to be tough. I thought she had a really good chance of doing it, but I wanted her to do it on her own. I didn't want her to think that the reason she hit is because I reached over her shoulder and made an adjustment. And she did great. She was way above average for someone who never shot a rifle before. Ever, a bolt action rifle at any distance, not even, discounting 100 yards. So whether you're an experienced shooter or whether you're a novice, like the young girl that just came through the class, you have to look at it from the perspective of it's not easy, it's not hard, it's just math, a little bit of luck, a little bit of pencil work, a little bit of leg work, but it's not hard. Like me stacking cinder blocks all day, that sort of sounds hard, Shooting at long range, that's fundamentals of marksmanship. It's mechanical, it's environmental, and a little bit of luck sprinkled on top. But if you go after this with the mindset, oh, this is difficult, or that, man, there's a really good chance I'm going to miss this target, I think a lot of shooters get themselves into these corners painted solid that they just struggle because they don't either believe in themselves or they believe that it's hard. And if you believe something's hard or something's difficult, it's going to be. I believe you make everything that you think come true, whether it's subconsciously or whether it's intentional. If you think running 10 miles is going to be hard and you can't do it, there's a good chance that you're not going to do it. If you think that swimming across the lake is impossible and you're going to drown, I probably wouldn't jump in the water. But if you hand somebody your iced tea and say, I got this, well, most people make it across the lake, right? So when you're getting into this, don't pre-taint your abilities or give yourself the benefit of the doubt that you can do it, that no one told her she couldn't, and therefore she could. Now, if I sat in the class the first day here and I told everybody how hard it is and how only special people like myself can actually shoot at these distances and hit stuff all the time, imagine how different the class would shoot and how they would behave. Imagine like how many more misses they would possibly have because in their head, well, this has got to be hard. I'm going to concentrate harder, and they're going to make that happen. And so do I think that way? No, absolutely not. I absolutely do not think it's that way. I think the way that we're doing it is right. And I think it's easy. I think it's, we tell people all the time, you're going to leave here with 7 years experience in 3 days, and you're going to leave here a different shooter. Even if you left on day 2, you'll be running out to 1,000 yards on your own as if you've been doing it your whole life. And we have learned it. It's just that easy. And what's fascinating to me is that we've learned that new shooters are apt to go and get this quicker and do just as phenomenal as an experienced shooter. And I'm not convinced that it's one reason or the other, but I do believe in my heart that half of it is because nobody planted the seed in their head that said they couldn't do it. And we are here telling them that it's easy, you can do it. And so they don't have that voice in their head, giving them self-doubt and hesitating and pausing and worrying. We're letting them know that, hey, you can do this. Go get it done. It's just math, right? It's just reading the wind. It's just, and a little bit of luck sprinkled on top, always luck sprinkled on top, right? And it's amazing watching the shooters. Now, to get on to a build assist that we just finished up, I believe that was yesterday or the day before. I'd have to go back and look at my notes. The gentleman that came through after we got a chance to talk to him, he picked up his rifle. So he come in and we did this somebody together. We showed him how to change all of his barrels out. And there's a couple things to talk about with this particular shooter and his mindset and how he was approaching hunting. But what I didn't know was that he had previously gone on an elk hunt. He had purchased a really big Magnum, never shot before. And he hated it. The rifle was just beating the daylights out of him. He said when he took the rifle to the range the first time, he didn't want to do it. And this is a firefighter. This guy's rough and tumble. I am certain that he's probably a peak physical specimen as far as his health, right? And this thing was knocking the snot out of him, and it's just not fun. So after we had got finished for the day, he had said to me that when they went out on their elk hunt, they could barely keep it on paper at 100 yards. And he had tried several times to hit steel at 200 and 300 yards and just could not do it. That was his first experience. And of course, as a guy getting into hunting and shooting, well, that's not really a great reinforcing experience. To his friend's credit, who, by the way, are bow hunters, and I always find that bow hunters have a lot more common sense when it comes to calibers because they get in the habit of learning how to sneak up on animals within 25 or 30 or 40 yards to shoot them in archery. And so for them, if they can get within 200 or 300 yards, that's a bonus, right? I mean, if they can engage something that far, oh my gosh, now I've extended my hunting range by, 10 times the amount, and I don't have to, sneak in so close, and I don't have to worry about all of these other things, right? He's getting ready to go on another elk hunt. And I know some of you guys are going to slide off your car seat, hit your brakes, or scream at your radio right now, but if you want to guess what his elk cartridge is going to be, it's going to be a 6mm Creedmoor. and he made the right choice. It's shot placement and your ability to shoot it. And it's keeping your distances within a reasonable range. So when we talked about this, and I did not know that this was going to be an elk gun before he had purchased it. So we got to the range. We got everything built. He's never shot anything long range before. He's had no instructions. He did a little bit on our long range shooting school online, but before he got here, but that was it. He got zeroed in at 100, no problem, stacking a couple rounds on top of each other, maybe a little flyer here and there, just getting settled in. Of course, brand new rifle, just getting it fitted. And then he started. He ran the gauntlet. I think he got his first miss. And we had winds going from 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock at 9 to 12 mile an hour to full value 3 o'clock at 14 mile an hour. So it was a really switchy and windy day. And man, he nailed it. It was incredible. Like first round hits the whole way out. Not just hits on plate, though. We're talking center shots, like boom, right dead center in the middle. And, in the build assist, what we try to do is we'll get the rifle set up, we'll get it zeroed, we'll get the scope fitted right, we'll get the length pull right. We'll actually chronograph, get the Ford-off program running, talk about all the things that we've got to put in there to make this happen. And we actually teach them the Ford-off program. At least give them something to go by, because my experience is get them off to the races started and then let them pick up and go from there. Now, he is coming through the long-range shooting school later this year with that rifle, but he wanted, rather than just me shipping it to him and him going to the range and trying to do this on his own, which is what he tried before, he opted to come in and ask if we would do this for him. And it was our pleasure. It was awesome having him here. We really appreciate it. And if you listen to the podcast, thank you for taking the time to join us and for coming in. And we hope that it was money well spent and time well spent at the range. But yeah, he ran it the whole way out to 1,000 yards. I mean, he had told me the distances he was going to keep his shots within. Like, this is our goal. And, I said to him, I have a lot of admiration for bow hunters when it comes to selecting cartridges for killing animals, because they sometimes think about shot placement and they try to keep their shots within reason. And he said they had supported him and had suggested the 6mm Creedmoor because, in their experience, if you can stick an arrow clean through an animal at 20, 30 yards. So having a 6mm Creedmoor with 103 grain EODX going at 2,900 or 3,000 feet per second, well, that's a lot more than an arrow, right? And as long as you keep within the lanes of what that rifle and cartridge combination is capable of doing, you're going to harvest the animal. And I'll guarantee it, his shot placement increased by 1,000%. I think when he shot at the steel at 200, because he had never shot at anything at 200, 300, or 400, he only had shot at 100 yards trying to work with this other rifle. And when he drilled that first target at 200 yards, dead center in the middle, then he went to one of our Know Your Limit racks and shot the small target. And then he went to 300, dead center, 400. I think we had at 400 a much smaller play. We had him engage. One got him off to the left with the wind. 500, 2 shots, dead center. At 900 yards, I believe he had 2 shots. He shot just 2 shots back to back. They were easily within 5 inches. I mean, they might have been 3.5. And then at 1,000 yards, hit the 1,000-yard plate multiple times. No problem at all. And in winds. Now, if this was a calm day, he would have had no misses whatsoever. The only couple misses he had was because the gusts had came in and the winds were switching. I believe that would have been on Tuesday, because that evening, of course, I believe all heck broke loose and we actually lost power. So the winds weren't quite that bad yet, but we had 71 mile an hour winds in our area later that evening and knocked the power out for all of our area for about 12 hours. So, but he did great. And again, I liken it back to 2 things. Number one, he had a bad experience, right? He did not have a first really great experience the first time he was attempting to do this. He was smart enough to go and seek out some people to give good advice from, okay, let's talk about your caliber and let's get you into a reasonable rifle. And then he's seeking out the information to shoot it well. And I think it just gave him that little bit of confidence that, I think at the beginning maybe had a little worry and self-doubt, but as soon as we started working at 100 yards, he was like, oh my God, this gun is so easy to shoot, right? Going right down the correct path. And then it was like, okay, here we go. We're going to start. Let's go ahead and run it. And we started shooting at distances. And he was like, my friends are not going to believe that I'm shooting targets at 900 and 1,000 yards. And this was before 2 o'clock in the afternoon. from never shooting a plate in his life at 200 yards to engaging targets, pretty much doing it on his own. Now, fundamentals we didn't teach, obviously he's not been through the in-person shooting school, although he's taken some of the online classes. Again, it's just fascinating to watch. And he believed. I mean, he believed in him because I believed in him. He was like, I could tell that right out of the gate, maybe a little hesitant. He was worried that he was going to have backflashes or flashbacks from the previous experience and that he's just not going to hit anything, because his first experience to try to shoot his stuff in 200 and 300 yards, he didn't hit a single plate. And so he's got that seed of doubt planted, and he is worried. I'll guarantee it. We all would be, right? Look, if you've crashed an airplane trying to land 3 times and somebody convinces you to get back in one more time and give it a go, you cannot tell me that those first 3 crashes weren't on your mind as you're coming around and approaching a runway. And same thing happens in shooting, right? But once he got that confidence underneath him, and I was like, you can do it. It's easy. It's easy. You can do it. And away he went. It was absolutely amazing to watch. And for me, I went home on cloud 9. It was just really enjoyable to spend time with somebody who, A, is passionate about getting into this type of stuff. B, he's got, a plan on what he's trying to do. C, he asked us for help. So we're very honored and privileged that he did seek us out to ask, hey, can you help me, right? And so we don't take that for granted. And to us, it's a great honor to be able to be part of their journey into long-range shooting or the type of shooting that we do, and then give them the confidence, and not false confidence. I'm never going to get somebody to the top of a 10-story building and tell them that I am confident that if you flap your arms hard enough, you're not going to bounce off the ground, right? I'm not going to do that. But when it comes to shooting, I believe what I'm telling you. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I've watched it, come to fruition over the last 20, 30 years of doing what we do and competing and shooting. So when you're getting ready to wrap up this part of the podcast, when you're getting ready to do this type of shooting, don't believe in anything other than yourself. Don't believe the target. Don't believe, that, well, I'm just a lousy shooter. Believe in yourself. That, believe it or not, that plays a big role in your success. That boost of confidence, even if you have some misses, you just throw them over your shoulder. Know that that's part of the game, but if you're still not lacking the self-confidence, if you believe in yourself that you can do this and you have faith that you can, honest to goodness, it changes how you approach the shooting, and I think it changes the enjoyment level of it as well. Just watching the last week of people coming through and shooting, brand new, which doesn't always happen back to back, and just giving them the skills, the equipment, and a little bit of boost and self-confidence just makes the world a difference. So when you're getting out there, don't beat yourself up on the firing line. Believe that you can do it. Also know that everybody misses. If you meet somebody that says they don't miss anything, you're going to be talking to someone who doesn't actually shoot. Missing is just as big a part of what we do as hitting. We're trying to win more than miss. We're trying to get the hits, but we also accept the fact that Mother Nature is an equal opportunity destroyer, and we're human. So before we finish this podcast up, I do want to say a quick thank to Creedmoor Barrels, and then we have some updates for you all. So Creedmoor is the maker of fine-cut rifle barrels. They're made in the great state of Wisconsin. They are family-owned and operated business, which is pretty awesome to support. They are second generation. John Creedmoor founded the company, and they offer a program called Creedmoor Direct, where you can purchase your barrels and have them in as little as 2 to 3 business days. So they have a specific website that they constantly try to put up barrels for sale, whether it's overruns of production or whether it's an intentional overrun, so they can actually have some inventory for the consumer to select from and not have to wait sometimes to 6 to 9 months. So if you need a barrel and you need it now, you can log on to Creedmoor and go over to their website. It's creedmoordirect.com, and you can look and keep an eye on all the barrels that are being posted on a regular basis and snag one and have it in as little as 2 to 3 business days. We've seen it happen before. It's a really nice way to get on there and grab a barrel that fits a need, and it's pretty awesome to get them that quickly. So if you want to learn more, you can stop over to creedmoorbarrels.com. That's creedmoorbarrels.com, and look for Creedmoor Direct. So we are excited to announce the Gen 4 Ace that's coming out. You'll see some videos posting up here shortly. It is 7 years of hard work and belief in what we can do to this industry and making a readily accessible chamber for customers that need custom work or customers that would like to have a custom rifle that they can build, maintain, change calibers. Think of calling a gunsmith, and rather than having to mailing your rifle to him, he mails you a chamber. Think of having a chamber that you can install and learn how to uninstall on yourself. Think of having the most accurate rifle built in the world, which we believe in our hearts that we make. There's a lot that goes into the accuracy of a rifle, and it is vulnerable to the weakest link or of all of its parts. So if you put crappy parts in a rifle, you're subjecting it to potentially crappy results. But that said, our life's work, or my life's work, was identifying the weakest parts of the rifle and trying to fix them. What could we do to leave the rifle industry in a better place than what we found it? What would be our lifelong contribution? The weakest link has always been how modern bolt-action rifles are chambered, with chambering the barrel itself, running a long reamer into a hole that is crooked, and that is the rifling. They are curved. It is a fact. Call any barrel maker, and they will explain to you the awful processes of trying to keep these things straight. They also have barrels that just won't drill straight, and so you can't drill a straight hole in wood, and you can't do it in steel either, and it causes issues. And then you try to run a perfectly straight reamer into a hole that's running off center or running away from center, and you wind up with crooked throats, and that steals accuracy. This, in my mind, outside of a high-quality receiver, is the weak point in a modern bolt-action rifle. It is where most accuracy is lost from what the rifle could have been. So traditional rifle chambering leads to a crooked throat, and a crooked throat means the rifle bullet, when it's fired, is hammering into the lands and grooves off center. Think of one land or piece of rifling coming back to the bullet on one side closer than the other. It's crooked. And so it's hitting one side first and then hitting the other. And there's been lots of facts to say that if it hits the lands crooked, it will actually run through the barrel crooked, almost like a terribly thrown football. Now not to that extreme, but you'll hear people say that their group settled down at 200 and 300 yards. Is that because that the bullet's not hammering the lands and grooves straight? When I started building rifles, I learned a technique called spiders, which is the hardest way to build a high-quality rifle. It is basically grabbing the barrel with a four-jaw chuck, in essence, from both ends, measuring where the throat is going to be, several inches deep into the barrel, and then dialing that whole inch section perfectly straight. In other words, we're dialing the curvature to the outside of the barrel. It is as complicated as it sounds. 90% of the gunsmiths don't know how to do it. And of the 10% that know how, fewer than probably 1% would even consider it. It is a horrible process. I mean, we've literally had gunsmiths quit because of how we chamber. They turned in their tools and they said, I don't want to do it this way. I just want to build hunting rifles. That's what you'll hear them say. The other way is just easier. And we are humans that we will always look for the easiest way to do something. If there's an easier way that yields us 90% of the accuracy or 80% of the accuracy, I am good with the trade-off of having that. I'll take a chance of a little bit less accuracy. I can do one of these every 2 hours, That's not us. It's not me as a shooter. And I think that's what influenced me in all the rifle shooting that I've done over the years is I'm not interested in average. I want to find the weakest link and I want to fix it. And I want to have the most accurate rifle in my hands that I can shoot. Now, in saying all that, I can proudly say that I've never had a rifle come back that didn't. And I don't say that braggingly. I don't say that bodaciously. I'm not sure of all the words that I can use to say that I am not saying this while I'm beating my chest. It's not an accident. When we would chamber using spiders, it would literally take me somewhere between 5 and upwards of 9 hours to do the chamber. Now, I know some of you are thinking there's no way he's absolutely telling that's BS. It's not possible. That is not. If my wife is our office manager here. She is the boss, for the record. But no, kiddingly, I am telling you the truth. You could sit here in my office and you can ask my wife when I was chambering a barrel, how long did it typically take me? Because a lot of times she was there. And so I would go down in the morning and I would be down there all day and come up at dinner time just finishing the chamber. Many times. But I never had a rifle come back. I never had a rifle come back that didn't shoot. The invention of the Ace, which is now probably going on 7 years since conception, is now Gen 4. And the Gen 4 is a consumer-based tool that allows the consumer to take it on off their barrel. The Ace came about with me trying to find a way to duplicate the results of having or getting a perfectly straight throat in the barrel without manually having to turn the barrel in 8 different directions or 4 different directions from each end, trying to dial the curvature out of the barrel. So my quest was, since I couldn't hire any other gunsmiths that would actually chamber the way that I wanted to, I was either going to be limited to what Jamie could produce by his own 2 hands, and when I passed away, that was going to be the end of everything that I've ever worked for in my entire life. Or I was going to find a way to duplicate the results, but without having to me physically do them, or not having to count on a set of physical hands to do them. Let's come up with a way to do this. And so the thought is why can't we screw a chamber onto the barrel? Why can't we make a rifle chamber on its own, standalone? Because we can do it in modern manufacturing. There's no run out. When you pass that part off from one part to the other inside the machine, it does it on its own. There's no human hands touching it when it goes to the second operation. And we were able to actually machine both sides of that Ace in one operation. But the key wasn't about making the chamber separate. The key was actually cutting the throat in the first part of the barrel. So for those that would like to know, the first inch of the barrel is the absolute straightest. That's where the drill starts. So the first inch of your rifling is the straightest rifling in the whole barrel that you will have. And so the thought was, if we, cut off a little bit off the end of the barrel so we have good clean rifling, right? Because they are hand lapped. And then the only thing we cut into the barrel itself in a very rigid setup is the actual throat. Think of 120 thousandths deep compared to 2 and 3 and 3.5 inches deep into the rifling, where the bore starts to walk away from the center line of the barrel. Then we just attached the chamber. I mean, it was a simple thing, and we were told it couldn't be done. So when we first started working on this and brought in some experts and just floating the idea amongst confidentiality friends, right? We were told that what we were trying to do cannot be done. Well, that's the wrong thing to tell somebody who's passionate about something. And here we are later with Gen 4. We've had rifles at lots of government facilities in which we have proven our accuracy increase. We are not allowed to post what the results are. We're not allowed to use the information that they provide us with the testing that they have done. So we are going to start looking for third-party testers that non-biased, that could look at our system and tell us the good, bad, and indifferent, that we can actually publish. But we know what we have. We know that the accuracy increase is there and that we can consistently and repeatedly build a super accurate rifle every single time, as long as we use high-quality products in the making of it. And so we're no longer robbing the accuracy of a barrel by trying to chamber it the way it was done 150 years ago. So all of this said, we're getting ready to launch our Gen 4, which is basically my life's work wrapped up into one little part that's about 2.5 inches long. We're going to be doing some videos of it and sort of an introduction to the Gen 4, as well as the difference between the Gen 4 and Gen 3. It will be on our website. We will try to post it on YouTube. It will also be on Vimeo, and we'll try to post it up on some other platforms on social media. But again, we're going to get into sticky territory because we're talking about building rifles and we're showing working components. I won't be surprised if it gets torn down or if it gets banned or if we just disappear altogether. But that said, I am super, super excited to share this. It is everything I have worked for in my entire life. And I really hope that it changes not only the people that get into this type of shooting, but it adds a level of enjoyment for you at the range that just can't be denied. Like for me, I always say that when you go to the range and you open your rifle case up and you bought a really nice rifle, something that you enjoy shooting, right? You have a big smile on your face. You usually have a big smile on your face as soon as you crack the case open. I also want you to have that giant smile when you close the case at the end of the day at the range. I mean, that to me is it all. It's not about having the coolest looking rifle. It's not about the custom paint jobs and all the crazy stuff you can put all over it. It's about enjoyment. It's about going out and being successful and building your confidence and giving you belief that your equipment will actually shoot better than you, allowing you to grow as a shooter and to learn as a shooter and become better. You will be limited by your equipment, and we're trying to make sure that that doesn't happen. And we're trying to give you the best tools to make you be the best shooter that you can ever be. So we're super excited. You'll see the videos posting up over the next couple of days as we start launching. The first ones that are going to be available to the public are in 223 and 22 Creedmoor. And we have the Gen 3s, which we are actually going to give as a discount. We're going to give them 50% off to customers that are eager to get their rifles as we get all the Gen 4s rolled out and online. And then we'll upgrade you to a Gen 4 when that chamber comes out if you would like later on down the line as well. So we'll talk about that in some videos as we start the rollout procedures. But super excited, sitting here all these years later in a machine shop, machines ready to turn into production, and hopefully leaving the industry better than what we found it, hopefully giving better tools to the consumer. And really, my belief was making it affordable. Now, we don't make anything that's cheap, right? And that's one part that we'll never be able to compete on. And I understand that, rifles can still be in that $2,000, $3,000, and $4,000 price range. However, though, in our system, we can actually, you can buy components as you go. You can buy parts and pieces as you go. And you can slowly build up to get and assemble your custom rifle. You don't have to make it all in one purchase as a big $7,000 hit to your account as well. And so what I'm really hoping is to actually reach down and get more people the availability to have a world-class rifle, not just the handfuls that can afford to have, a $7,000 or $10,000 or $12,000 marketed rifle as the best that in our minds still might not be. We still believe we're better than any rifle made as far as accuracy and quality goes. But that said, we want more people to be able to afford to enjoy it. What's the use of having 9 of the fastest sports cars in the world if only 9 people are going to put them in a garage and that's the last you'll ever see of them? We want to bring this to the masses, and we want to bring this level of accuracy and confidence to the masses. And so I'm super excited to share with you as wide open as I can, leaving myself vulnerable to all the naysayers or those that are in our industry that really don't want to see change and might be adverse to the things that we're doing. And some of it may be self-serving, even though they're not saying it. But, I'm sort of laying my heart and soul out there and saying, this is my life's work. And I really am hoping that we leave the industry better than what we found it. And I hope 20, 30 years from now that we see almost every rifle being made with the technology that we've pioneered today. And that, somewhere down the line, someone's going to say, hey, who invented this? Oh, this is some Jamie guy from the 2000s. That would be so cool. Just to leave my mark in the book that I contributed something to our industry that left it in a better place before I found it. So anyway, I hope you stop over and check everything out. You can also learn more at wolfprecision.net. You'll start to see our website changing over. Super excited for what's coming over the next year or two, even though it's going to be a lot of hard work. It's going to be the last finishing touches to get our business to where our vision was and get those two to line up and being able to serve the customers the way we would like to serve them. So anyway, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on the podcast. I really appreciate it. My name is Jamie Dotson. I'm your host, and you're listening to Wolf Precision's Long Range Shooting Custom Rifle Building Podcast.